Welcome back to another Meet Kevin Report. In today's Meet Kevin Report, we're talking about the Apple credit card and how it's sexist. We'll go into talking about the market, some stocks that you should be paying attention to, and the yield curve. And then we'll be talking about Reddit, the chat site Reddit, and how kids on there are psychos. Let's get right into it on today's Meet Kevin Report, where I report news that makes you money. First up, the Sexist Apple credit card, which, as we know, is created by Apple, not a bank.
A credit card created by Apple, not a bank.
User DHH on Twitter, who is also the tech entrepreneur who launched and founded the company Basecamp for communicating better with clients, stated on Twitter, "The Apple Card is such a sexist program. My wife and I filed joint tax returns, live in a community property state, and have been married for a long time. Yet Apple's black box algorithm thinks I deserve 20 times the credit limit she does. No appeals." Now, Goldman Sachs has been cheering the use of AI to approve credit card users, and if you've been following my channel in prior videos, you know that I actually recommend the Apple Card for people who are looking to build their credit score. That's because, for some reason, the Apple Card has been approving customers for the Apple credit card, Apple Card, with credit scores as low as 570 without any kind of security. Usually, if you have a credit score of under 640, you have to get what's known as a secured credit card, where you have to go make a bank account. You have to put money in that bank account first, and you can't spend that money. You could use your credit card, kind of spend and repay your credit card, but you have to have that security blanket there because the bank doesn't trust you. Well, Apple said, hey, you know what? We're just gonna have an algorithm approve people pretty much automatically, and hey, if they have a low credit score, oh well, maybe at least they'll go buy some more Apple products. And now, while they didn't exactly say that was why they were approving people with low credit scores, there's no doubt people are getting approved with low credit scores. You could go check out the comments section on the video I have linked below. Now, it's also presumable that Goldman is the company taking all of the risk because they are the bank behind the Apple Card, even though the Apple Card is created by Apple and not a bank. Now, you might think that this is just a fluke. Well, it wasn't until Steve Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple, came out with this tweet that things really started hitting the fan. The same thing happened to us. We have no separate bank accounts or credit cards or assets of any kind. We both have the same high limits on our cards, including our Amex Centurion card, but 10x on the Apple credit card. Well, I guess that is definitely a new definition of 10xing. That is, whatever the dude's credit limit is 10x whatever the woman's credit limit is. This is clearly a problem. I doubt this is intentional, but this has happened before. If we look to history, we'll actually see that exactly the same thing has happened with an Amazon algorithm before. Here's an article from Slate.com where we can see that Amazon created a hiring tool using its AI, and it immediately started discriminating against women. This began in 2014, and in 2017, after years of trying to fix the algorithm, Amazon said, you know what? It ain't gonna work. It's just not gonna stop discriminating against women. Yet Apple thought it would be a good idea to try anyway with credit cards. Now, this pissed off the state of New York so much that the state of New York on Saturday said that they would begin to investigate Apple for discrimination. Now, while obviously discriminating against women is a problem and this is an overarching issue, it is quite interesting that Steve Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple, jumped into this conversation, because to me it comes across a little bit like, oh, yeah, we do have this problem. It's Goldman's fault. Which it may totally well be, but it is an Apple-branded credit card after all, so you kind of think that the buck should ultimately rest in Apple's hands. And if Steve saw this happen, maybe some more investigation at that point should have been followed through on. Although Steve himself did lament that it's hard to get a human for correction, though, and basically wrote it off as, that's big tech for you in 2019. So I guess big tech in 2019 is 10xing men. And that is a whole new definition to the last definition I heard about 10x in a court deposition, where when a real estate syndicator was asked, what's 10x, he responded, yeah, it is, well, 10x is it's a number. with an X. Now, obviously, I don't think this algorithm was maliciously programmed to discriminate against women, although that is possible. It does make me feel good knowing that humans and human services will be very needed for at least a good amount going forward into the future, which is good if you're ever worried about your job being replaced by an algorithm. Now, if only I could get the YouTube algorithm to 10x my channel. Now, before we get into the news of Reddit, I want to mention some of my favorite stock picks coming up here, and as a Veterans Day special, I've never done this before. I'm just going to do this for literally the next 12 hours, and that's it. You could use Veterans Day 25 for a small extra discount off any of my real estate programs, including my real estate investing in-person all-day crash course in San Francisco this Saturday, my crash course in February in Vegas at the Bellagio, where we'll be including lunch, or obviously the online real estate investing course, which people have been loving, especially the private live streams where I help analyze people's deals, and I've been known to tell people, don't buy that, that's bad. And in my opinion, that saves them hundreds of thousands of dollars, but obviously there are a ton of money-saving tips, tricks, and hacks, including how to save 25% at Lowe's every day. You'll also see a course on personal finance, real estate sales, do-it-yourself property management, and overall, I encourage you to check out that link down below, and again, that coupon code is Veterans Day 25. And now, stocks. I personally have never been particularly interested in the McDonald's stock, but I can tell you, over the last 5 years, the McDonald's stock has essentially and exactly doubled. It has a 2.5% dividend yield with a price-to-earnings ratio of only 25. It is, however, down from its heights about 11%, especially because Chief Executive Steve Easterbrook was just fired from McDonald's because of a consensual relationship with an employee. This left shares down almost 3% in just one day. Now, if you like purchasing things on red days, Under Armour might be a company to look at, although you might be running into a landmine. Under Armour is down 65% from its heights at the end of 2015 and just recently fell 19% as a federal investigation into its accounting practices was announced. The company does not have a dividend yield and has a price-to-earnings ratio at 70, which makes the company still slightly expensive, at least based on PE ratio. But overall, if you're optimistic about the growth of Under Armour and the strength of the brand, this could be an opportunity, because with the exception of 6 months in 2017, the stock has never been this cheap since 2013. Now, we're going to talk about Reddit in just a moment, but first I want to talk about Reddit's probably favorite game. That is, Call of Duty racked up sales of $600 million in the opening weekend. That means if each person paid an average of, let's say, $75, since some versions are more expensive and some are cheaper, 8 million people bought Call of Duty in the first weekend. This is in addition to Activision Blizzard releasing classic World of Warcraft, which has absolutely blown up this summer. The Activision stock is down from its heights in mid-2018 quite substantially. It has a dividend yield of 0.7 with a price-to-earnings ratio of just under 27, was trading for highs around 70 to 75 throughout 2018 and is now selling for just $53. So if you've been looking for a big discount, 2019 has been the year of a discount for Activision Blizzard, although recent successes could turn that around in earnings to come. Now, just my opinion on this, I personally think that the Call of Duty stats will already be priced into the stock, but I have a feeling that new World of Warcraft subscriptions, especially if the servers continue to stay full, could blow away analysts' expectations. So if you've been playing Classic and you're seeing those servers still overly populated, maybe consider their stock. Don't sue me though, bro, if I'm wrong. Now, in other news, remember that dramatic yield curve that everybody was crying about in like March and May of this year because the yield curve inverted? First, it was the 10-year, 3-month yield curve that inverted. Then it was the better, more important yield curve, the 10-year, 2-year yield curve that inverted. And basically, basically, you don't even have to know what it means. All you have to know is that it was supposed to be bad. It was supposed to be a sign of a recession coming. And if it stayed inverted, then things were basically going to heck because nobody was optimistic about the economy and we were destined for a crash. Well, that yield curve has been doing very well lately and has been fully separated, not indicating a recession, at least based on the yield curve. Now, before I talk about the psychos of Reddit, I just want to remind you that on Wednesday, the chair of the Federal Reserve will be testifying about the economy. That should be very, very good. And I'm hoping to particularly see mention of what appears to be a growing problem in car debt. A lot of people are currently trading in their cars and getting loans for dramatically more than what the cars are worth. For example, in the Wall Street Journal in today's issue, we have somebody saying they recently bought a $27,000 Jeep Cherokee with a $45,000 loan from Ally Financial because they traded in another car and were upside down on that car. Now, I know some of you like numbers and some of you don't, but this should be a really easy one. 1/3 of all people who buy new cars had negative equity the moment they bought it. And no, I'm not talking about that moment where they drove it off the car lot where the value of the car had an equal value, let's say, to the value of the loan, and then you drove it off the lot and the value of the car went down. No, I'm talking about the full price value of the car in the dealership before being driven anywhere was here, and the car debt was right here. That's 1/3 of people are in that situation. That's crazy. Now, the USA Today reported on a study that 1/3 of Americans sleep too little, less than the recommended 7 hours. I just personally wonder why they needed a study for that. I think we all know that. Last comment before we get to Reddit. Gold and silver are down dramatically so far this quarter. Gold futures are down about 3% and silver futures are down about 6.78%. The S&P 500's real estate and utility stock, which also did very well last quarter along with gold and silver, are also both down about 3.6 and 3.7%. Instead, what seems to be leading the big push this quarter are financials. The S&P Financials Index is up 2.43%. Bottom line, it seems like people are becoming less worried about the recession and are moving away from these safer assets into areas where they see more growth. Now onto Reddit. You've probably already heard of the stock trading company Robinhood. It's part of the fintech or financial technology movement, and I will say, I have never used a Robinhood until this glitch happened because I wanted to try the glitch out for myself just to see if it would work. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. They already fixed it, at least for AMD stock. Maybe I should have been a little bit more creative and used a different stock from the stock that was used in the glitch. But let me tell you, first, in my experience of using Robinhood, it is the easiest platform for buying and selling stocks. I have never made a Robinhood account before. This is not sponsored or anything, but when I signed up for the account, I used a referral link and I got a free stock. It was only like $4.50, but I'm like, that's actually kind of cool. Like I signed up, $4.50, great, but that isn't even really what the cool thing is, which by the way, if you want a free stock as well, valued anywhere between $1 and I think it goes up to like $500 per stock, go ahead and use the Robinhood link in the description down below, sign up for a Robinhood account from your phone directly, and you could start trading stocks immediately, which that was actually my favorite part about the app. Is I don't really trade options or call options, whatever. I usually just buy my stocks and I'm done. Some of my favorite stocks lately have been Target, Starbucks, Tesla, and I've been buying these stocks like crazy. And yes, even before Tesla's recent run-up. But what does this have to do with Reddit? Well, Reddit is actually where this story broke. That basically people could buy, let's say, 100 AMD shares, then they could sell a contract based on those 100 shares that would execute in, let's say, a week, oversimplifying here. And once that contract sold, which every time I tried to sell a contract, it sold within 30 seconds. Once that contract sold, the glitch was that your account would actually get all of the contract value back. So in other words, if you made a contract to sell $4,000 worth of stock, and that means you wouldn't have access to that stock anymore, and somebody bought the contract to buy that $4,000 in stock a week from now, Robinhood would give you $4,000 back, or that contract value back. So now you have $4,000 of stock equity plus $4,000 of contractual equity. But that's the same thing. It's referencing the same original stock of $4,000. And so people were able to extrapolate this and with very little money invest upwards of $1 million with as little as a few $1,000s. Obviously, this is terrible, and CNBC did a talk on how this is actually not so bad for the individual users, or whom they call kids, but it's actually really bad for Robinhood, because guess what happens if these kids lose all of their money? Well, Robinhood's probably going to be stuck with the bill, because is Robinhood really going to try to sue a younger person who's got $2,000 to their name for losses that could be in excess of hundreds of thousands of dollars? Now, I personally never recommend margin trading. I much prefer investing in real estate, where I can guarantee making 15% on my money or more every single year by buying below market value deals. It's very easy to me. There are these wedge opportunities in the regular, everyday real estate space. There's nothing unique about it. And these are opportunities you could take advantage of as well, which is why you should check out the courses linked below and meet me in San Francisco or Vegas. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and play some clips from this CNBC talk, where not only did they call Reddit a chat room, but they also called these kids psychopaths.
So Robinhood is going to pay fines. Here's what these kids are doing, and they're psychopaths. They figured out that they could sell puts, take in option premium, use that to buy more shares of a stock, and then sell puts against those shares, use that to take in more option premium, and on and on and on in like a Jacob's Ladder kind of thing, to the point where with only a couple of $1,000s at risk, they could take like $1 million position. Arguably, they're like doing it to impress their friends on a chat site.
So there you have some of my favorite Reddit clips. If you like these kind of videos, make sure to let me know in the comments down below so I can keep bringing you the Meet Kevin Report, where I report news that makes you money. Thanks so much. Follow me on Instagram, and until next time.